Welcome to the session on market access. And just to recap from the introduction, we have explained that to access the market, entrepreneurs and SMMEs, they need to make sure that they've laid the foundation in terms of, one, administratively, they have their administrative part in order. Two, it comes to the team. They have the necessary skills to execute the project or the activities of the business. That's two. And three, they need to make sure that they are fully compliant with the legislative requirements of the industry. That's three. And then four, they need to prove that they have done similar work before. So they have references in the space that they want to access the market. And lastly is that they have the operational infrastructure to execute the opportunity or the project that they're looking for. So if you are an SMME and you're looking to access the market in a certain field, you must make sure that operationally you have the infrastructure to execute if you were given an opportunity. Not only the physical infrastructure, but as well as the financial resources. So that sometimes you need to have capex, you need to have working capital for you to run a project that you might be given. Those are the 5 key things that as an entrepreneur, as a SMME, you need to make sure that you have in order. You make sure that you continuously improve. And yes, initially you might not have everything, but make sure that you're continuously working on them. So now I'm going to repeat them because they are very, very, very important for SMMEs. The first one is on the administrative compliance. Make sure that you have your company registration document, you pay your CIPC, you make sure that you pay your tax, you have your tax clearance. If you're in your sector, they're looking for a letter of good standing from Department of Health, you have those in order. So on administrative side, you have proof of res, you have ID copies of the directors, shareholders agreements, proof of res for the company. So that's on the administrative side. You need to make sure that you have those in order. We're going to go into details in terms of what is required and how our app assesses you on those. That's the first one on the administrative side. The second one is on the industry compliance. Certain industries require certain things. So if you're in mining, you need to have a mining license. If you're in training, you need to have you need to be accredited for the training courses that you're offering. If you're running a franchise, you need to have a franchise agreement. If you are providing food, you need to have food and safety, health and safety certificate. So those are the industry specific. So the second one is to make sure that you have industry specific compliance for the sector that you are focusing on. That's the second one. The third one is you need to make sure that you have a team to be able to execute whatever the opportunity that you might be granted. Yes, you are still looking for access to market, but the person who's going to give you the opportunity will want to see if you have the technical skills to execute the project. In terms of technical skills, as a small business, you might not be able to employ all the experts that you might need in your business. You might not have all expertise internally, but you must build networks, you must build relationship with people in your sector so that you have an understanding. It can be an SLA or a memorandum of understanding with certain experts that you can't afford at the current moment to bring them on board. Then you enter into a SLA or memorandum of understanding so that you can use their profile when you are approaching the market for you to try to enter the market. You can have the service level agreement to agree on your terms in terms of if you get an opportunity, how you're going to work with them. There will be freelancers or you can bring them once you secure the opportunity, but you must negotiate with them upfront to know what kind of expertise you will need from them and then how much they will charge you in terms of the rates, if it's a rate per hour or per project, depending on the sector that you are in. The third one, you need to make sure you have the expertise, build relationship, have the network of people that if you secure a project, you will be able to use. until you get to a point where you will be able to employ them on a full-time basis. That's the third one. The fourth one, make sure that you have references, because sometimes when you're looking to access the market, if you don't have references in terms of where you've done the work before, where people can vouch for you to say you've done the work before and they were happy with your service, the next person might not be willing to give you an opportunity because you don't have reference letters. Make sure that you secure reference letters upfront for the type of job that you have done. But if you are a startup, sometimes the business itself, it doesn't have references, but you as a person or the part of the team might have references. So you might obtain reference letters on your individual capacity, but ideally the reference letters must be in the business name. The client that you have serviced before, they should be able to give you reference letters. At least have 5 reference letters, and they must not be older than 3 years, those reference letters. So that's the fourth one. That's the fourth key factor that you need to make sure that you is sorted. And the last one is you must have your operations. You must have the infrastructure to execute the project, depending on the type of project that you'll be executing. But let's say a certain company wants to give you an opportunity, they must be able to come and verify where you are operating from. Even if you don't own the infrastructure, maybe enter into a service level agreement with people who owns the infrastructure, so that you can show your potential market to say, even though I don't own the infrastructure, but I have this service level agreement with so and so. Whenever I have the job, then this is how we're going to execute the job. We have the service level agreement. This is how they're going to charge me for the equipment or for the facility that I'll be using. It's not that you need to upfront have the facility. You might enter into a service level agreement or lease or whatever agreement, memorandum of understanding, whatever agreement you can enter into with the company that or the institution that will be providing you with the operational infrastructure. But if you can secure the operational infrastructure, so that when the people are giving you opportunity, they have infrastructure that they can verify, so that you give them that confidence that you will be able to execute the project. Under the operational readiness, you need to make sure that the other one is, sometimes you need capital expenditure to execute certain projects, or you need working capital to execute the project. So as you go out into the market, you should be able to prove that at least you have sufficient working capital to execute the project if you are given the opportunity, or you have a potential to secure the working capital if the type of project that you're executing, it requires you to also have to buy certain assets or equipment. Then you need to be able to indicate that there's indication that you will be able to secure that funding for you to execute the project. Those are the 5 key things that you need to make sure that you prepare. You make sure that you understand what are the requirements. Those are the 5 key factors that you need to look at. Administrative compliance, make sure that you are ready. Industry wise, you need to make sure that you have the necessary accreditations and licenses. You need to make sure that you have the team that you'll be able to use or access to execute the project. 4, you need to have references where people can verify that you will be able to execute the project. And lastly, operationally, you must have the infrastructure or access to infrastructure and access to funding or working capital for you to execute the project. So those are the 5 key things that you as an SMME, you must have. So just to recap, that's the introduction in our course to market access. And then now we're going to dive into those 5 factors that you need to look at. First, you're going to go into the administration and compliance to make sure that administratively you are compliant. Now looking at the finance section, I know sometimes access to market comes before the funding or access to funding. But as a business, you need to do that analysis. Even before you try and access the funding, When you want to access the market will want to see if, one, you have the resources to execute that, the project that you want access to market for. Sometimes you have to start small, make sure that you grow as a business and give the market confidence in your business before they give you bigger projects. So you need to start with a smaller project. When it comes to the funding, look at how small can you start. They call it a minimum viable product. How small can you start? If you are training, start with one qualification. Enter the market, and then as you get clients, then you add other qualifications, and maybe you might even start from operating from a smaller office or operating from home, depending on the nature of the business that you're setting up. But you still have to have infrastructure. And before you access bigger funding, you need to be able to prove yourself and prove that there is market out there that wants your product. And the best way to do that is for you to start smaller. But in terms of this section now, there are certain businesses that you can start with small capital, of course, but you must assess what is required for you to enter the market in terms of capex. Do you have funding to start? Have you secured the funding in terms of capex, or in terms of working capital? Do you have working capital? Let's say they give you a project to manufacture the laptops, then they need you to buy certain material. That's part of working capital. Do you have funding to buy the material so that you can deliver? Because it doesn't help for someone to give you an opportunity to service them, giving you access to market, but you don't have sufficient working capital to execute that project. You might end up failing to execute the project. And that's one of the many failures when it comes to small businesses, where they underestimate the capex or the working capital that's required to execute the project. Then you ended up spending a lot of money on trying to rectify the mistakes that SMME has done, because they didn't have enough money, so they end up buying low quality raw material, and they deliver the product, but the product is not of the required quantity. One, they've wasted your time. Two, the product might break within few minutes or whatever, hours or months of you starting to use the product, and you need to spend money replacing it or appoint another service provider to do that. So as a SMME, to manage that risk that the market might see in SMMEs, you must be able to show that you have sufficient working capital to service that market. So you need to make sure that, one, if capex is required, you have sufficient capex to service that market, or if not, you are ready to secure the capex, meaning you obtain your quotations, you looked at the capex that is required, you've done the analysis, you obtain quotes from different institutions, so you are ready to fund your capex. You've looked at everything, and there's a potential funder that is out there that is will be willing to support you, if that's the capex required. But if it's working capital required, have you gone out into the market, obtain quotations, and see how much it's going to cost you in terms of working capital? Will you be able to afford to deliver on that product and services that you want people to give you opportunity on? Because people will not just give you an opportunity. You must ultimately be able to execute. You might have the technical team, you might have the operations, you might have the compliance, but not the working capital to execute the project. Then you'll end up maybe failing to deliver on that project because you don't have the necessary working capital. The app assists you to assess if you have sufficient working capital and if you're ready to access the working capital if it's needed. And then on the actual financials, the app looks at your current performance, your profitability. How your business is doing. Are you profitable? Are you generating sufficient cash flow to run your business? Yes, you're SMME, you're still looking for markets, access to markets. But obviously your numbers. You need to, one, prepare your financial statements. And our app helps entrepreneurs. You can, from Excel, upload it and it generates you your management account or your financial statements. If you go under our post-investment section, then there you will be able to upload your Excel figures, and then it will generate your financials for you. But as an entrepreneur, you need to regularly, even if you are looking to access market, be able to produce financials, because if you are giving someone an opportunity, you might want to see their numbers. How are you doing? Where are you currently? So that they can judge in terms of the quantity or the level of service that they must give you. It must be based on your previous performance. But sometimes you might be applying for, I don't know, a billion rent opportunity, but you're doing 100,000. Then it might be too high for you. So if you maintain the records, they might see that if you are on 100,000, maybe let's give him market access for a million rand, because he's proven that he's got the records, he's running the admin properly, he's got the financial statement, they're up to date, but he's only doing 100,000. So maybe we might give him the opportunity for 1 million. Let's push them to a contract of 1 million or business access to market of 1 million rand. Actual financials are very, very important. You don't do them just for compliance with SARS. You need to make sure you do them to, one, show you where you are as a business, so that you can strategically grow from where you are, and indicate to people that you are approaching, the market that you want to access, to say, currently, this is where I am, this is where I want to go, here are my numbers, please give me the opportunity. Then that shows that you are your administration is in order, and you know what you're looking for, and you know where you are. Because sometimes you're looking for markets, but you don't even know where you are. I mean, if you don't have financials, you don't know if you're profitable or not, you don't know where are your challenges financially. So please make sure that you prepare the financial statements, and the app shows you the things that are very important. It rates you based on the financial statement and the performance. Then that will give the potential market an opportunity to see where your business is, or where your business is at, so that they can give you enough opportunity. Then also, in terms of under the financial section, you look at the financial projections. You project where you want to go, so that when you approach the market, you know what you want to achieve, and you know which institution you should approach because of their market size. They will be able to make you achieve your financial projections. In terms of financial projections, it's not only for raising funding, it's also when you're accessing the market. You need to know who to approach. So for you to know who to approach, you need to have projections to say, I need to achieve so much turnover. Then who can make you achieve that turnover? Who's at the size that you need to approach, so that you don't just approach. Yes, sometimes cumulatively, the market can give you the turnover that you're looking for. But if you do the projections nicely, then it will give you indications of, if you're approaching smaller guys, how many of those small guys you need to approach for you to reach the turnover that you need to reach, so that you are profitable. So if you have your projections, if you are approaching smaller guys, you'll be able to know where you are in your plan, so that how many you still have to approach to access the market. Financial projections are very important for accessing the market, because they give you a guide. Where you are, how many individuals you still have to approach in terms of, not individuals, but organizations, in terms of the numbers, so that you need to achieve the projected revenue that as an organization you will want to achieve. And the last one that we look at in terms of the finance section in relation to accessing the market is the financial security. Yes, sometimes when you given the opportunity, when you want to access the market, you might find you have secured funding, or the market want you to secure the funding. So when you approach them, you must be able to indicate that in terms of the funding, if you give me the opportunity, I have the money to execute the contract or the opportunity. It's very, very important to make sure that you give your clients or your potential clients or the people that you want them to give you markets that confidence to say you have secured the funding, you have sufficient working capital, or you have sufficient funds to execute the project. So that's where the financial security comes in. If you have approved loans or funds, you need to make sure that you clearly state and you indicate to your potential market to say, should I be given the opportunity, I'll be able to provide or I'll be able to raise the funding that is required. Or depending in terms of the opportunity that you might be given, or you might be able to show that should I be given the opportunity, I have in my balance sheet, I have sufficient money on my personal capacity to execute the project. Even if I don't secure funding from a funding institution, but I have personal assets that I can use to raise money to execute this project. That will give market an indication or confidence that you will be able to financially, you will be able to execute the project. Because access to markets, yes, you need to access to market, but that goes with the funding. It costs money to service a specific market. When you're going out looking for that access to market, you must be able to show that you have, one, the infrastructure, that you'll be able to execute the project in terms of the operations and the technical know-how. But the second part is you will have the financial resources to execute the project. As I've said earlier, to say sometimes if you don't have sufficient cash or working capital, SMMEs but any other business for that matter, it will tend to cut corners so that they can complete the project. But if you can show that you have sufficient working capital to finish the project, or you will be able to raise sufficient capital for you to execute the project, then the enterprises that you are approaching or for them to give you the market, they will be comfortable to say, if we give them the opportunity, then the person will be able, or the organization will be able to raise money to fund the operations while they're executing the project. Financial security is also important to access the market, but sometimes is the issue of chicken and egg. Do you raise funding first before you have the access to market, or do you need to have access to market first before you raise funding? But I believe you need to access the market first before you actually raise funding. So in this case, when you look at the financial security, then you look at your balance sheet, and then based on my balance sheet, how much can I raise for me to access this market? So that, in terms of the resources that you have or the financial security that you have, it will determine the size of the market that you can access. Then once you access the smaller market, then you've proven yourself, then it's when you can raise more funding so that you can access the larger or the bigger market. Financial security, it also plays a very important part in giving your potential customers or the enterprise development institution that wants to give you an opportunity, or it wants to give you access to market. You must be able to prove that you have resources in terms of, one, the operations technically you can operate, but most importantly, can you raise the necessary funding for you to execute the project? So financial security, it also plays an important role in accessing the market. That is our financial section on accessing the market. There are basically 5 things that you need to make sure that you put in place so that it makes it easier for you to access the market. The first one is CAPEX requirements. If you don't have the necessary CAPEX, but you should approach whoever the institutions that will fund you to say, if I secure the market, will you be able to support me? Or if you don't have the CAPEX to spend now, find the other companies that you can rent or can lease, or can have a service level agreement with them in terms of the the capex. Then once you started servicing the market, then you can approach the funding institution to fund your own capex. But capex funding, it's important. It doesn't have to be internal. As I said, you can lease properties. You must look at our property, plant and equipment lesson, where it shows different options in terms of you acquiring the physical equipment or the plant and equipment that you're going to use in production. If you can secure the funding in terms of getting the capex, but you must use your networks. Whoever who's already has the infrastructure to, and then you enter into service level agreement with them to use the infrastructure while you're trying to access the market. Once you've proven that you can access the market, then you buy the assets. You spend money on the capex. Okay, then the second one is working capital. You need to have money to execute the project. That's stock, labor, and all that you will be able to pay before you get paid. And the third one, maintain the actual financials so that you can prove that you have administratively, you are able to maintain records and you have the financial record to prove your historical performance. Financial projections indicate going forward what you want to achieve and which market you need to approach. And lastly, financial security indicate if you will be able to raise the necessary funding for you to service that market that you want to access to. Thank you. Now, as an entrepreneur, then how to use our app in terms of how to complete the market access assessment. After you've logged into the website, you'll come here to say, yeah, complete your business plan. And then you see it changes to manage your business plan listing. If you click on manage business plan listing, this is your organization. It will be listed like that. It shows you where you are in terms of the rating. Ideally, it's for you to be on 95% so that the market can see that you are compliant. Now, to update each section, you will have to click on your business. Then it will bring you this dashboard. So basically on this dashboard, it's got all the key sections that you need to consider or that you need to work on as an entrepreneur to access the market. The first one is administrative section. You need to complete all the sections by clicking on that rating there that you see there. So if you click on it, it will give you a form that you need to complete. And the second section is on management. This is assess the management and the technical ability and know-how of the team. And the third one is on the market section. It assesses your value proposition, the market that you have already secured, the barrier to entry, and the industry growth. So this is just analyzes the market for you to see if the market that you are going into is viable, and it rates you. And then the third one is on the operational section. It gives you the overall rating. So on the operation section, we look at the operating system, we look at the operating and technical compliance. We look at the systems and processes because they're very important to look at. And the fourth one is on the finance section. The funding that is required, the working capital required, and the actual performance, your current actual performance. And then the financial projections that you have made and the financial security. What security are you providing? And then on the fifth one, we're looking at the social impact, which is the social empowerment and the job creation. So there you're going to do the self-rating, where you rate yourself in terms of where do you see yourself, but the app will guide you. And the last section is on legal section, where legal compliance, are you compliant with the requirement of your industry, and if there are any litigations that you are involved in. This is the dashboard for for accessing the market. As you complete it, first you'll self-assess yourself to see where you think you are. And on the red one, then the facilitator, you'll appoint a facilitator through the app who will assess the same things that you have assessed, so that when we send out your profile to potential institution that will be able to give you access to market, it will have both the ratings, your ratings and the ratings of the facilitator. Make sure that when you complete this, you are as honest as possible. If you don't have the documentation, just be honestly respond to the questions that are asked in an honest way, so that even when the facilitator is doing the facilitation to support you, they know that they are starting from the correct base. Because in an effort for you to score a higher overall score, you might want to exaggerate some of the rating. It's not important. It doesn't help you. You might come across as a person who's not reliable. For you to make sure that you are consistent and they know who they are dealing with, your initial assessment is very, very important. So I'll show you how you do your initial assessment, but that assessment is critical because it's set as a basis. Because after the facilitator has assisted you to improve your scoring, then you're going to have the assessor who will be totally independent. Will also assess your score to see if the scoring was reasonable and it was consistent, so that he can recommend your business for access to market or access to funding or whatever the opportunities are there. So depending on the consistency of the scoring, it's important for you as an entrepreneur to be honest when you're completing this assessment tool. To complete the assessment tool, depending on which section you want to complete, if let's say you want to complete the industry growth, you just click there on self-rating. You have the tab there. If you click there, then it opens you a window for you to show you the items that you need to assess. For example, is operational system, is documentation, is the training that is being provided. So there are different scores for that item. So for you to edit the score, you simply go and click on edit. So on edit, you open this form. Then there's a question, operation management. This one is the overall comments that you give in terms of the supporting document that you verified or the supporting documents that you use. And then on the challenges identified, as an entrepreneur as well, be as open as possible, because this is the development areas. Because if you try to hide the challenges, then the system or the people who are assisting you, they wouldn't know which area you want support on. So it's very important for you to be able to identify the challenges. It's mainly on this section. And then the corrective actions is on the corrective actions that you think they must be taken. So it will be your view as an entrepreneur, and the facilitator as well will have a view on what corrective actions can be taken. So these are the actions that will be taken to improve your scoring. There must be interventions that are required, and then the app, as its objective is to facilitate access to markets, it also facilitates access to training. If you identify opportunities here and you put in the corrective action, then the platform will be able to identify the entrepreneurs who needs a certain intervention, that it will group you together and source that specific intervention on your behalf. It's very, very important when you're completing this form that first to be honest on the first section, okay, honest throughout, obviously, but being as clear as possible on the challenges that you have on this section, and then the corrective actions that you wish they could be taken, or the corrective action that you're gonna take. It depends. Sometimes there are certain things that you will be able to do on your own, but there are sometimes certain things that you can't do on your own. So here you indicate the corrective actions that needs to be taken. Then you get to the assessment itself, where There's a drop down. We made it easy for entrepreneurs. It's the drop down. It gives you options. Then you just choose the closest options to your organization. Here, the first one, for instance, say operation management system. Okay, is it sufficiently documented? Do you have sufficiently documented policies and procedures? If yes, then it will be sufficiently. And then if no, if it's insufficient, it's documented but it's insufficient, then you choose that. Or if you don't have the system at all, be honest about it so that we know what interventions your organization will need if it requires intervention. It's not that if you put in a negative, call it a negative answer, you wouldn't be assisted, but you will get an appropriate assistance if you are honest when you complete this diagnostic tool. This is what we call the diagnostic tool because it diagnoses the challenges that you might be having in you accessing the market. But the important thing is to make sure that you have access to market. So we identify all the problems challenges that you might have, and then make sure that they are addressed. Here on the system, and then on the operational management, then we have, is the system documented?